Hey, my name is Esteban Guerrero. I'm computer scientist at the School of Technology and Innovations of the University of Vaasa in Finland. This video is about systematic literature reviews. Specifically, I'm going to talk about tools, software tools that we're going to use during some processes of the systematic literature review. The structure of the presentation is start with a summary of what is in a systematic literature review, what we're going to use it in what cases, and some of the classifications of that. Then we're going to see a couple summary of methodologies, and then I'm going to focus on the tools for data collection, screening, and classification. What is in a systematic literature review? There are different type of articles and different type of studies for that is summary of these investigations. Mostly they are divided into in the systematic literature reviews. There are different studies and there are different classifications. But in a nutshell, there are primary studies and secondary studies. Primary studies are those papers or those articles that they are focused on one specific topic using different type of methodologies, quantitative, qualitative, or theoretical, even hybrid approaches, different type of methodologies that they are using. Those papers are the type of articles that you see usually with one research question and focus on one very narrow specific topic. That is primary studies. Secondary studies are most focused on covering areas or covering topics that they are far away from the primary studies. They are considering the collection of those primary studies to understand what is the specific trends, or they are analyzing, synthesizing all these primary studies. Or perhaps also they are also used for analyzing the gaps in those specific topics. Those are the type of primary studies. When we talk about systematic literature reviews, we talk about secondary studies. They are collection they are using collection of articles to evaluate and assess the specific research questions or specific gaps inside a specific topic. And why we are using systematic literature reviews? What is the goal of that? Well, primary studies may be fallible, so they can perhaps not because the authors were aware, but they can provide a not complete picture of the one specific topic. They can be also limited in the how was designed or conducted. So they have usually primary studies, they have a small scope. They are focused on one specific area with one specific topic and one specific methodology to solve that problem. On the contrary, secondary studies are more comprehensive, so they are covering more space, more scope from different than primary studies, and they are considering previous what is happening in a period of time. So when primary studies when is perform a new primary study without being informed about previous research, or the state of the art, they may result in irrelevant papers or perhaps unethical research. So I'm going to talk about methodologies, but this is a very brief analysis of systematic literature reviews. Please check the references for more information. There are different types of systematic literature reviews. As you can imagine, the type of goals that they are covering, those goals of secondary analysis, of secondary investigations, they are multiple. So in a nutshell, you can see that there are different type of analysis how you can make it, from very simple overviews to the meta-analysis, a quantitative meta-analysis analyzing all the different variables and different type of fast reviews, like a rapid review or the scoping review, which are the methodology and the processes are quite different to the systematic literature review. So there are different type of them. So when we talk about the different methodologies, we talk about mechanisms or methods, how they are summarizing or assessing those collections of articles of primary studies. Some of them, they are quantitative. They are using they are used for analyzing, for instance, comparative observational studies, or like a randomized control studies, and mostly used in precise studies, like in medicine, economy, finances, and education. They are tend to focus, when they are quantitative, they are more focused on investigate the efficacy of the intervention, of one specific intervention. For instance, understand the drug, whether the drug treatment or an intervention in education and a financial literacy increases or decreases certain variable, like the literacy or knowledge or test or some specific variable that in that specific area. And there are different kind of methodologies for that such approach, as it depends on the topic. On the contrary, the qualitative systematic literature reviews, they are more covering the assessment of observational studies. They are used to synthesize, similarly to the quantitative systematic literature reviews, but they are using different methods. For instance, ethnography, grounded theory, automatic synthesis, and so on. But in general, all of these quantitative and qualitative approaches or methods, all of them are aimed to reduce the risk of bias in the review process. So in summary, it depends on the goal. So it depends on how the goal of this review is made. If it's intended to summarize a large primary studies, with a fast review, depending on if topic is new, well consolidated, and so on. So for instance, it's different if you are analyzing a trending topic that there is very new, rather than to investigate procedures, very complex and well-established topics. So depending on the mechanism, that they're going to be a different type of methodologies. Some well-established methods for systematic literature review are, among others, are the Prisma method, in software-related systematic literature review, that is in Kitchen-Ham, the Cochrane collaboration guidelines, and others like the Spider and other guidelines for a specific type of goals. So it depends on the type of systematic literature review. There is a procedure, a step-by-step procedure to follow and create a well-established systematic literature review. So every systematic literature review has a methodology and a way to reporting the outcomes of all these processes. So, for instance, in the Cochrane Handbook for Systematic Literature Reviews, this is the structure. So the title, the background, you have to create define well-established objectives and the methods and so on. And for one of the most well-established and most well-known is the Prisma approach. There are two versions mostly, but there are different kind of extensions of this checklist. The Prisma systematic literature review process is a well-established use for meta-analysis or quantitatively in quantitative methods, for instance, well-known in healthcare and medicine and epidemiology. It has a different type of steps, and there are different versions, extensions of the primary version, the 2020 checklist. So, but I'm going to present to you the kitchen ham. And this is the kitchen ham is oriented for when you are reviewing a software-oriented or software-related interventions. It can be considered as a subset of the Prisma, because the Prisma is the most consolidated and the strongest, I will say, systematic literature review procedure, but not all the procedures, all the processes in the Prisma can be considered for every systematic literature review. And I'm going to focus on three processes here. One is the establishment of obviously the title and the background, and provide what is in the background, what is the specific of the research problem, and try to narrow down the research problem, and try to justify why this systematic literature review is. But the key part is before the methods is to establish the research questions, the review questions. The review questions need to be considered as specific questions that the outcome of the analysis of these articles are gonna answer. So that is the main idea, to provide some questions that gonna guide all the methods and gonna guide the discussion and at the end of the review. In the methods of this, the structure, the methods in the review, it's necessary to disclose and describe in detail all the data sources, so the databases where the articles were collected. For instance, if you use Google search, or if you want to use more advanced databases, more sophisticated, or depending on if you are investigating other sources of the information. So also you need to describe this type of study, as we saw in that taxonomy, that there are different type of systematic literature reviews. You have to describe why you are using, and the criteria for selection and inclusion. So depending on the different type of criteria connected with the research question, you have to include or exclude some of these articles. For instance, so one of the common criteria for selection is the language. As most of the articles in journals are in English, or it's possible to select only those articles in journals or well-established papers, not articles or reports or not peer-reviewed articles. And how you go perform the data extraction. So the data extraction, we're going to see that is performed using the keywords. We're going to see that part later. And how you're going to synthesize all this data. So there are different processes that necessary to be done before starting to do that. So let's assume that you have already established that. So then you need to go to the discussions. So if you collect all this data, you need to analyze it. And the results have to show, you have to show all the data that you're collecting connected with research questions. Every research question needs to have a set of articles trying to solve that question. And in the discussion, you need to provide some sections with a general high-level principal findings at a high level, and then go to the solving every research question. So kind of top-down approach. But of course, depending on the systematic literature review mechanism or the type of review that you are doing, it's going to be different structure, but this is a systematic literature review. So, and try not only to summarizing what is this, all the bunches, but all this set of articles is saying. So the most important is to see gaps in those. What is the gap between in the topic, and also what is the meaning of those findings. Not only to summarizing what create tables of what is done, but also what is missing is really important. And try to summarize in the big picture of that specific research question and consolidate those articles. That is the main idea of that. Those processes. The conclusions of, obviously, you need to provide the limitations or the limitations of the paper or the systematic literature review. One of the most, as I was saying, one of the most important processes is a Prisma flow diagram. This is a process, a traditional process that you have to include inside the article, kind of the step-by-step what you were doing during the process of the selection and the criteria selection and number of papers that you have selected and so on. So during the identification, screening, and the inclusion of those papers, you need to establish the number of papers that you were analyzing. This is the N there, the number of papers, and the number of the databases or registers that you were checking, and so on. That is when you use only databases, specific databases. But when you use more additional studies, for instance, when there is another set of not only using databases or registers of those databases, you have to include another process. How was the identification of that? If, for instance, if you are using a governmental information, those reports from the government, they are not available all the time in academic databases. They are connected, they are probably in another databases or web pages that you need to collect. So you have to also describe where are those databases and how was performed. Similarly to how the criteria of selection, the criteria of exclusion, and so on. But also you have the Prisma, the last version of Prisma 2020. They included the the cases when you are using automated tools as we are talking. So we're going to talk about that because this is very important. As you can imagine, the number when the number of papers are increasing, there are going to be more complications how to do it manually. And that is the main idea. What happens when you have thousands of papers and when you have thousands of results that can be analyzed, that can be relevant, but it's hard to do it. So that is the idea of automated tools. Automated implies the automation of some processes, like the selection of databases, selection of articles, the gathering of those tools, not only connected for screening, but also there are other tools nowadays with artificial intelligence that you can create some kind of summaries of articles, the text generation from those articles, or their synthesis, automated synthesis based on machine learning and artificial intelligence. But in this video, I'm focused on only in the identification and the screening processes. Perhaps in the next video, I'm going to talk about those automated tools for reporting or for generation of text. So let me go to the first step, for the data collection. When there are different type of, before starting to gathering data, it's necessary to use usually methodological processes. So a tool as a for how to create to create the search. That is the main idea here. So there are different type of processes. For instance, the Pico, that is called Pico, Picos, Spider, and so on. So the main idea of this is that how to create create a selection of variables that you're gonna use for searching articles. I'm gonna show you the one example later. So in general, these methods, what are intended of these methodological tools for search, is intended to create and consider search variables, isolate the search variables for every search question to be create in order to create keyword queries. The keyword is going to be used in the databases. Let me show you an example. The Pico methodology defines what is going to be the population of the articles that you're going to select, what type of intervention going to be, and what is the comparison method for analyze those papers, and how they're going to be analyzed, what is the outcome to be analyzed. For instance, in some of these variables in the patient or the population are age or the primary issue, for instance, in a health problem and a virus, for instance. And intervention, there are different type of them. The medication, obviously, the type of intervention that it's going to be analyzed from, because the main idea, if you want to analyze specific set of topics of one research question, you need to compare between the same type of interventions. For instance, let me show you an example. For instance, if one of the research questions is the following: is adherence to the Mediterranean diet associated with reduced risk of heart attack? That is the research question. So the Pico will be the Pico gonna analyze the type of variables connected with that research questions. For instance, in this type of studies, they are analyzing only adults that they are connected with a heart disease, and the intervention is a Mediterranean diet. And the comparison, there's no comparison of their typical diet, and the outcome is the reduction of heart attacks. So with these variables, you create the query or the set of keywords that gonna be associated with the research question. That is the main idea. You use these keywords to put it in one of those databases. So for when you talk about, once you create those keywords based on every research question, using those mechanisms of PICO, the tools for search analysis, once you have these keywords, you need to go to the database to consult those keywords. So there are different type of databases. In Finland, we have the Tritonia database collection. There's several hundreds of these databases, and some of them they are peer reviews, and some of them they are another type of databases. But in general, the selection of the database depends on the topic. There are different type of databases, search engines, like a general databases that they are. There is no specific for one topic, or they are a topic specific. For instance, in healthcare and economics and education, or in engineering or computer science. There are also different type of databases depending on the type of article. There are some of them they are not peer reviewed. They are only reports, and some of them they are theses or like a thesis is a PhD or master thesis or bachelor thesis. Databases, also reports. So it depends on the type of articles. And also the availability of that, because some of them they are open access, and some of them with high, very good kind of advanced search, they are paywall. And it also depends on what type of different tools have those search engines. There are some search engines or databases have filtering tools inside of the platform, so you can use it to filter even further those articles. Let me show you one example, a non-fair comparison of those articles. Let's say that you have a keyword set for ESG and how they're going to be investing and biases. So if you put it just the first one, the ESG, in the very well-known Google Scholar, you're going to get the very traditional, so the type of basic analysis. But you can also analyze in the advanced search. The advanced search, it just provide some different tools for filtering. Just if you want to use the exact phrase or removing some of the articles. So that is a very simple, I guess. It's a very well-known database. Another is Scopus. It's a well-established, however, is not open to this. It's not available in all the cases. And you can use title, abstract, and keywords of all the words inside of the every article. For instance, I copy pasted here, but you can use the selection, the helper that has scopes. So you create sets of keywords depending on that, and then go and search, and you're gonna find different type of filters and tools inside of the platform for helping you to select, filtering out or reducing the scope of some of them. You can also use for exporting this, for instance, in different type of reference managers, some file types. So we're going to see those for instance, and one of the most well-known is RIS. We're going to see those for that. Usually we use abstract and keywords also for exporting, because some of the tools that we're going to see, they are using the abstract to analyze the data. So that is the one different good filtering options. Also, there is a tools for, as in Google search, about the data, and also for subject, and you can select and limit or exclude or limit the search in some topic areas. You can also create analysis of the filtering from your criteria, depending on the language or the type of article, if it's in a journal or review, was a workshop. And also there are tools for analyzing the results automatically. So they are very good when you want to see trends for depending on the year, or depending of the nationality of the authors, or depending on the subject area. For instance, in this case of ESG, if you want to analyze only in economics, there are the 50% of them, they are in all this set that we found, the 65 articles are in economics. So as you can see, there are big differences between them, and it's available, and the availability of those, it depends quite a lot of the availability of those databases. Regarding references and reference managers, there are different type of them. They are open source or paid ones, or let's say not that there are different type of them. There are Windows, Mac, and Linux. I'm going to talk today about Zotero, because it's open source and it's free. Some of the well-known is Mendeley, that is connected with Elsevier, but also Yabref is also well-known, and Node. But I'm going to focus on Zotero right now for some examples. But what is a reference manager? A reference manager is a tool where you can create an account, and you can list all the papers and create folders for organizing articles. If you have different papers, you can create new folders. For instance, if you want to create a new set of articles for a review, or set of references. So you have this is my folder, and I'm going to add articles that I'm going to use in one article. For instance, if I want to go and create a journal article, but you have to do it manually. So for instance, I have to add the title, the author, and so on. As you can imagine, this process is going to be is quite slow, and you have to know all the data about this. However, you can use the Zotero web tool, that is, you install it in Firefox or Google web browser, and what is going to happen is that it's going to add a tool here in the web browser, and when you are searching for a paper, for instance, if you find this paper very interesting, well, you just click there and add it automatically to your new library or your folder. Then you just automatically it's gonna be updated all the references, and you can use those references to add it automatically in Wingword or Word or Library, and every Word text tool for generating for writing your paper. For instance, it can be in LaTeX, or it can be used for in Office Word, or any other open alternative. So it's a good. The reference managers are basically the same. They are using the same kind of methodology. You create folders, public folders, and private folders. So we're gonna focus on tools for screening. Screening is the main idea of screening is one of the steps after focus and after gathering all the data. For instance, you have 1,000 papers that you select using your database, and you need to reduce it to classifying or ranking, kind of sorting automatically, depending on certain type of articles. There are artificial intelligence and machine learning have been providing different tools for improving this automation. So one of those examples are Ryan and Swift and many others, and there are plenty of them nowadays. But I'm going to focus on one that is open source and it's for free, that is called AS Review. There's a paper in Nature Machine Intelligence about this tool. I will not go step by step in the installation steps, but mostly is a command prompt or terminal procedure. So you need to install first Python and then prompt in the terminal pip install AS Review, and then start AS Review Lab in the same command line. I'm going to show you how. So after you installing, you add AS Review Lab and automatically start in one web browser. So you're going to get this interface. So when you have this interface, you create a new project. For instance, I have a ESG article review, and I have the authors and the description of the paper, and I'm adding the dataset. The dataset is the files that we collected from the exportation from Scopus or from the Zotero. You can add those. You can collect those folders and add it. And you can download as a RIS file, and you add it here in as a data set. So here, for instance, we added the Scopus articles that we found, and you start to add prior knowledge. What is prior knowledge? Prior knowledge is you need, as every machine learning process, the AI algorithm needs to learn what is acceptable paper or what is not acceptable paper. So that is the main idea. So you click there and you search for one of the papers, or go randomly from the set of papers that you go. So you say that is relevant, yes. Next paper is relevant. You read the abstract, you read the title, and you say probably yes, this is good, and this is not good, and so on. So mostly you have to select 5 papers as a prior knowledge, relevant or irrelevant, and then the algorithm. There are different type of algorithms for this one. So you, for instance, if you don't know the details of those characteristics of machine learning, you just keep it as it is. But there are different type of them depending on the type of article, the type of machine learning process. You're gonna get some more filtered analysis, and depending on database or data set that you get. And that is what you're gonna get. So you're gonna get, so the software gonna present to you this interface. So you start to tag if it's relevant, irrelevant, relevant, irrelevant, and it's mostly it's gonna show you first the most relevant papers to those that you suggest that these are relevant papers. At the end of the process, you're gonna, and after analyzing titles and abstracts, you're gonna get the full statistic of that. And what you're gonna get is all the data, all the articles, and you can export it as an Excel file or CSV, whatever you need it, and depending on the tool. But the Excel file gonna give you a column, all the papers, all the articles that you analyze, included one column that is named there's rank articles. So the number one in that list is the included, and the 0 means that it is not included. So this is gonna be the set of articles that they are classified, or they are filtered or screened as a most useful. So with all the data that you have. So the rest of the articles, they only gonna be not related. But you can also check manually if some of these not mentioned papers can be relevant. So that if you want to make a double check. So in summary, so the systematic literature reviews are quite different depending on the questions that you want to answer. So, and depending on those questions that you want to answer and the topic of the scope of the systematic literature review, you need to select that is a systematic literature review, is a scoping review, is a meta-analysis, it's just a simple overview or survey. And depending on that, you need to define the methods and the tools, the selection, the process, how you're going to select the keywords depending on the research questions, and the variables that you want to analyze, and also the databases. And I want to focus here is that it's very recommendable to use automated tools for gathering the articles, for instance, automatically gathering using the web browser, using add-ons or extensions in Firefox or Google Chrome, and also gathering those articles in the reference manager. So please add those, download those reference manager, any reference manager that is suitable for you, and use, depending on if you are using web browser, Firefox or Google Chrome, please use those add-ons or extensions, and use automated tools for screening. When you're gonna gather, if you have the more papers that in the future are gonna be published, you're gonna gather more and more results. You're gonna get more results, meaning that you're probably gonna get thousands of articles. So that is when automated tools are important. When you need to automatically teach the algorithm to what is the type of article that you are interested in, and the machine learning gonna give you a pre-selection of the best papers and rank it in one list. So that is all. Thank you very much. I hope that you find this video useful. I'm gonna upload the references of these articles, and thank you.